Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lounging with Lisa, the video series that has me lounging while coming at you thoughts of the day. Sort of an update. I haven't been able to really call any plumbers yet because Mother isn't around and she's in charge and she has her favorites and all that jazz. So we have no gas, and I'm sure this weekend we're gonna just, we're not gonna have a plumber out on the weekend. We're just gonna have to live without gas. I have clothes hanging on the line. I just got with Perpetual and said, look, why don't we just never have the gas turned back on? We'll just do the old-fashioned way. I'll fill him up a tub on Saturday nights using hot water that I've boiled outside, like either on camping equipment or a perpetually going campfire of some sort. And, dump it in, and he can have a Saturday night bath. I need a Friday night bath right now. So, yeah, that's sort of the latest, which isn't really an update, is it? What else? Who else? I just paid bills, and I'd like to take my own life. Things are not good, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you all realize this as well because we're in the same boat here. But just wages are not going up. I'm not, doing as well as I once did at work. Who wants to buy an advertisement whenever their small business is caving under because there's a Walmart superstore 6 miles up the road? It's really a shame, it's a travesty, it's hideous, and I don't care for it. Not just because of me, because I want to see people succeed and do well. Now, another thing is I was just listening to a little bit of a video by Gregory Palast, the investigative reporter, the author, the documentary filmmaker, about the cross-check program and the purging. He was talking in front of a Virginia group, I believe it is. I wanted to tell you something. I should have told you this a while ago. I might have, but I have new people. Whenever you hear that that some of the governors of states or whatever are clutching their pearls and refusing to turn over the voting list, the voting rolls, whatever it's called, the list, I guess, to these election integrity crowd or whatever it's called. Oh my God, everything is opposite day. We are Orwellian, aren't we? And they're saying, oh no, we're not going to give him our list. Are you kidding? We're not going to cooperate with Trump and his cronies. Well, they've already done it. They already did it. It's been done. They did it in the 2016 era. This is something that Palast brings out. And oftentimes, as he puts it, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Bob Dylan, get your mind out of the gutter. So, Bob Dylan's an actual subscriber. It's not the Bob Dylan, I'm sure. Who knows? It could be. I'm sure. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead. I've actually copied that link for once in my life, and I'm going to put it in the description if you'd like to listen to Greg Palast speak in front of some people in Virginia, I think it is, about these shenanigans where, oh, no, we would never dream of turning over our list. Never, never will you get it out of us. But they did it 6 months ago or something. It's crazy. Speaking of the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing, for instance, hospitals are like that. Like, I just noticed if I would go in for whatever, I had to be rushed in for something. They had no clue, like, what happened a week earlier, or, do you have an aversion to this, that, and the other? Remember how I told you I went into that detox thing so I could get off all of my prescriptions? Literally, let's see, when was that? 1 year later, I went. Now, I didn't have a problem with opiates, but nonetheless, on the record, it might look like I did because I went through this detox thing, which I already explained the difference between physical dependency and addiction. If you want to look at that, I did a video about it. I think it's called From Kratom to Opium. No, I'm sorry, it's called From Opiates to Kratom. At any rate, okay, so I went to have this hysterectomy, which was kind of they thought I had cancer and all. That was another thing. Just crazy stuff. They don't know what they're doing. But anyhow, I had the hysterectomy. And they asked, have you had a problem with opiates? Which I didn't. It was just, there was no way I was going to get off of them without total help. You know what I'm saying? So they prescribed me the opiates, which is good. You need them after a hysterectomy. But you would think it would be in their records that I was literally in their facility. Oh my God, now that I think about it, that same exact one, because Meadville Medical Center has 2 different buildings. I think I had the hysterectomy in that one. Right upstairs or downstairs from it was where, I was in there drying out, as they used to say in the old days. Went into the tank. That's what I really used to call it, is the tank. I went to the tank. So, yeah, they have no clue. You can have, let's say that I was a raging drug addict. And I went in there to dry out in the tank. And it was in my records that I was just abusing the hell out of pills or whatever. And then 1 year later, I go to have a hysterectomy. And they're, making sure it's okay to prescribe me opiates, that I've never had a problem with it. Wouldn't you think it'd be a good idea for them to look up my records? Just to make sure that it's just crazy. But anyhow, it's not like they gave me anything that strong anyway, ladies and gentlemen. That's what those of us in the pain community have noticed, that we don't understand how these people are over-prescribing opiates or anything. My God, back when I was trying to get prescribed them still before I switched to Kratom, nobody would freaking do it. I read the worst stories on here about Pennsylvania people being turned away from their pain clinics, and these people never abused their medicine. Many of us never abused our medicine, ladies and gentlemen. They just, like I told you before, for those of you who haven't looked, maybe you'd like to. My pain clinician raised a huge eyebrow. She didn't even have that big of eyebrows. When her eyebrows raised off her head in the manner of the Pink Panther whenever I mentioned that I was trying Kratom. They don't want you doing natural stuff. It was a mess. But anyhow, like I said, it's good to be gone from it on the one hand. On the other hand, I really wouldn't mind, in case of emergency, having like a handful on hand per month. Like 5 a month. I'm not kidding. Because during my deadline days and stuff, sometimes my pain gets real bad and nothing will hit it. The Kratom doesn't really work or whatever. So I don't know how I got off from bill paying onto the... Oh, about the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing and all that. I just thought that was really weird. I mean, what if I were some strung out druggie that had to go into the tank and dry out, and 1 year later they handed me over a fistful of opiates? Does that make sense to you, ladies and gentlemen? It doesn't to me. Although, in a way, I'm glad that they didn't check the record, because it could have looked like something was up. I don't know. The whole thing was weird because I planned on staying in there for an entire month. But because I was not addicted to the pills, I was physically dependent, they wouldn't keep me. So maybe I should have pretended to be an addict. See, what they do is they give you all these questions and stuff, and oh my God, some of the stuff they asked me, I think I'm going to be bloviating for a minute. I didn't plan on this, but I've only done one video today. They ask you a bunch of questions like, I never even knew you could do this shit with your pills. Oh, I'm sorry, I swore. Like they'd say, did you ever snort your pills? Did you ever crush your pills? Did you ever insert your pills into your anal region? All of the stuff, ladies and gentlemen, I had no clue. Clearly the answer was no. I took them like a regular person. That's what I kept telling them. And then another thing they do is they switch language to make it, I don't know. Here's the thing that bothers me about it, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm not much for this 12-step stuff. I'll do another video on that altogether one day. Not right now, though. I mean, suffice it to say, I'm not a big proponent of it. I've known like one person for whom it worked. And we'll get into that another time. The scientific aspect of it, the percentage rate and all that jazz. But the thing is, in these programs, like the one that I had to go into the tank in Meadville, they didn't, and I scheduled that entirely. I mean, I was itching to go in there and get off the stuff. It wasn't just painkillers, it was also the, what's it called, anti-anxiety and depression pill and Zoloft. So that was good. But anyhow, they don't differentiate between somebody who's physically dependent, as was I, and an actual drug addict in terms of the same treatment pattern, path, whatever, outline, or even a little bit of the psychological evaluation you might get. So therefore they use the language that's associated with addiction, like, when's the last time you used? Take note of the word used rather than took a pill or whatever. So the one doctor who's actually really cool, because I knew him actually from when he had a practice in Linesville, the home of the community news. He came to my room and said, when's the last time you used? And I wasn't going to cater to that language, thank you very much. Drive through. Since I'd never shoved a pill up my ass, I felt I was safe. Oh my God, I'm getting crude. I said the last time I took my regularly prescribed medication for my pain Was it approximately 12:16 on Friday or whatever it was? So yeah, I did not allow myself to buy into that, the language of the program. Yeah. So maybe some of you are going to be mad at me for saying this, but in my view, you know, from looking at it at all angles, well, first of all, there's other methods that work better, scientifically speaking, for people that have an actual drug or alcohol-related problem. This Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, which then spun off to NA and RA and DNA and all these different A places. From what they can ascertain anyway, there's only really a 3% recovery rate. And the program they have you in is almost like a religious thing, you know, give yourself out. It's very religious. No, I said I wasn't going to get into this, and I am. I'll just give you a taste for a future video. It's done in almost a religious way. Like, you have to admit that you have no control over your addiction or your life, and, you know, you've got to hand it over to a higher power, whether that higher power be Zoe sitting here on my front step or the light bulb across the room. It doesn't have to be God. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. It's too much. But anyhow, yeah, a lot of those things, I think it's really kind of religiously based. So it doesn't help a lot of people who aren't inclined to be religiously motivated. Now, for some people that are predestined, predetermined, whatever, not predetermined, but lean in the religious way, like my one friend that it did help, he's religious to begin with. So, or he was kind of, and now he is big time because of the program. So, anyhow, this just went crazy. Went from voting to opiates to the tank in Meadville. That was a trip, ladies and gentlemen. I really should do a video about that, about my experience in there, because it was wild. It was crazy. Oh my God. My roommate, oh God. Well, there were only 2 women and I think 5 men. And she was out of her tree. You know, she did something I never even heard of till I was in there. Of course, I learned all the language in there. She did something called tonguing her pills, which meant, like, when they gave you the stuff that helps you get off the other stuff, it kind of made me really screwed up, frankly. In fact, another person I know told her mother, Mom, I never got that gift up on my actual opiates as I did with these things that help you get off them. But she would tongue her pills, and they had you open your mouth and all to see, but she had a technique. So, like, later on, she would kind of get them all in her system at once, and oh my God, she was totally wasted all the time. In there, drying out, she was wasted. Like, peeing her bed and all. This was my roommate. Yeah, just the 2 of us in a room. And she lived for me. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, I felt so bad. I would have to hide from her because I wrote sort of a thing to everybody because I knew I was going to be leaving, and I wrote what each one had meant to me and all. You know how I am. And they read it after I left at one of their meetings. One of the guys took it and read it to everybody there. And like a week later, somebody got with me and told me it went real well and they appreciated it and all. But I had to hide in the ping pong room, ladies and gentlemen. The door like swung, and I was in behind there on a chair, like all hiding from this woman so I could write out what I needed to write out. And I could hear her going up and down the halls. Where's Lisa? Where's Lisa? I can't find Lisa. I can't find Lisa. I thought, holy crap, those nurses are going to think I snuck into this other place and I'm shaking somebody down for something. So I had to approach the front desk and say, I'm here, I'm hiding. Oh, it was crazy. And some of the things, some of the people, some of the stuff you learn. My first night in there, one of the fellow patients had me convinced he was a doctor. Yeah, I totally fell for it. I never had been through anything like this. He's going on telling me he's a doctor. I'm a doctor, and this, that, and the other. And yeah, I feel it's a good idea to really interact with my patients. And so they were all going along with it. Like, let's make fun of the new girl. So later on that night, when I went up to the front desk, they mentioned Lisa. He's not really a doctor, and I felt kind of silly. Okay, I am done. This is crazy. 14 minutes and 19 seconds of this shenanigans, starting with voting rights to opiate abuse. Lounging to AA's recovery rate. Lounging with Lisa. I hope people don't unsubscribe if you're a member of AA. My God, it might work for somebody, but I just don't. I'm not keen on it. Don't hate me over it. I have enough problems. My house might blow up. Lounging with Lisa, the video series has me lounging while coming out your thoughts of the day. Join me, join others. I love her so. Drop your political identities and let's focus on issues. And also, leave your labels at the door. I think she's fixing to get into her pod. I love her so.